side. Murphy shooting, save a rebound on the view.
Hey everyone, this is Casey. You are watching the RedRubberDuckGuin All Sports Network, and it's finally time for my final video in the 2025 College Football Mass Preview, which is a collaboration with me, Red5478, and Illogical Canadian. Now, 2024 has been a very eventful year for the ACC, to say the very least. We had the series premiere of a certain soap opera in Ireland, drama in the ACC Championship, drama in the selection show, and now more contenders have popped up and they look to make the ACC a better conference, especially in football. Because they already lost their bread and butter, basketball, to the SEC, so they might as well take that as the fire under their ass to actually try to take away the SEC's bread and butter, football. Now, 2025 is supposed to be just as chaotic. So, without further ado, let's check it out. You heard of the saying, only a brick wall can stop you. Its name is the Eagles. Well, the perfect counter for that brick wall is a butt chin. Bill O'Brien is still trying to find some credibility after running the Texans to the ground. Now, he did lead Boston College to a bowl game, so that first hurdle's cleared. Now you need to bring in some hardware. For the offense, there will be a huge battle for the starting quarterback job. Either Grayson James, who transferred from FIU last year and finished 3-1 as a starter, or Dylan Lonergan, who transferred from Alabama in December, will take the starting job. Now to the victor go the spoils, and the spoils are prime targets in wide receiver Lewis Bond, who had 67 catches last year, and tight end Jeremiah Franklin, who had 27 catches for 311 yards and 3 touchdowns. The top 2 rushers last year were seniors, so look for Turbo Richard to step up. The defense will get some secondary help with the return of safety KP Price, who finished last year with 85 tackles and 2 interceptions. And helping him will be Amari Jackson, who is coming back from a season-ending injury last year. Now, to aid the linebacker core, they bring back Davion Bam Crouch, bringing back speed and explosiveness. What this team needs is another strong start like last year, when they went 4-1 and propelled them to a bowl. Now, Boston College, try to win more than 7 games this time around, will you please? Now, here are 2 things I don't get about the debut year for the Golden Bears in the ACC. 1, why did you even move to the Atlantic Coast Conference to begin with? 2, how did this team that lost to frickin' Florida State even make it to 6 wins and a bowl game? Well, unfortunately, those questions will never be answered for another 3,000 years, so let's just focus on the present. Justin Wilcox was able to right one sinking ship, but can he keep this one steady? The answer is yes, if the team and new offensive coordinator Brian Harsin can get along. I don't know what was said, but it caused 23 players to leave the team after the spring game. You better fix this and fast. And let's go over your offense. We start with a new guy at quarterback, with Devin Brown transferring from Ohio State, where he spent 3 seasons. The portal also gave him former UNLV wide receiver Jacob DeJesus, who in 2 years caught 96 passes for over 1,100 yards as a Rebel. Behind Brown will be tailback Kendrick Raphael, who comes in from NC State with 734 yards in 2 years. The defense was turned into a scary unit last year. However, that was with their old defensive coordinator, Peter Sirmon, who is now on the New Orleans Saints staff. Now, new co-defensive coordinators, Terrence Brown and Vic So'oto, will have to keep the defense afloat. The D-line will keep a lot of its cornerstones with defensive tackle TJ Ballers, defensive end Nate Burrell, and nose tackle Aiden Kinana to see if the second best defense in the ACC can stay. The linebacker core will keep Cade Uvalde and will add transfers like Bum Jock from Colorado State and Odera Okaka from down in the junior ranks. The secondary will be new, and redshirt freshman Kamani Hudson will get plenty of chances to emerge. Cal, you are picked to finish dead last in the ACC. Go prove people wrong since Florida State can't stop you. Guys, I hate to say this, but I think Clemson is back. Despite an embarrassing loss to Georgia to start things off, a double-digit loss at home against Louisville, losing to South Carolina again, and nearly blowing a 17-point lead to SMU in the ACC Championship, Dabo Swinney was able to keep his players calm, cool, and collected like he almost always has. Despite getting off to a rocky start last year, the offense quickly rebounded with quarterback Cade Klubnik leading the charge. His 4,102 total yards and 43 total scores should bring Tigers fans hope this year. These numbers were possible due to Dabo Swinney inserting true freshman wideouts Bryant Westcoat Jr. and TJ Moore into the lineup after that loss to Georgia. They also bring back Antonio Williams, who hauled in 75 passes for 904 yards last season, and former wide receiver Adam Randall will go over to the running back position and replace your 1,100-yard rusher from last year, Phil Maffa. The defense now has a new leader in the press box as Dabo brought in Tom Allen from Penn State to try to improve a very mid defense. Good news is you brought back defensive end TJ Parker for one more year before he goes into the NFL draft. He will be joined by defensive tackle Peter Woods, looking for a first-rounder style season as well. The linebacker tandem will have returning starter Wade Woodaz and Sammy Brown, and in the secondary, former Tiger A.J. Terrell's younger brother, Avion Terrell, will line up as corner. Clemson has all the right ingredients to go from a surprise ACC champion to back-to-back ACC titles, as well as another national championship. Dabo, we trust you to cook. Just make sure this team isn't raw. Everyone, get in the bunkers. The Cameron Crazies over in Cameron Indoor are about to transfer over to Wallace Wade. Manny Diaz and his crew return as they look to create another sport that Blue Devils fans will cease to shut up about. There is a very good reason to be ready for football season in Durham. The Blue Devils are coming off of a 9-win season and 13 starters will be coming back. However, one of those people will not be Malik Murphy, who threw for nearly 3,000 yards and 26 touchdowns last year. With that being said, Tulane transfer Darian Mensah has to fill in some very big shoes. Now, the rushing attack needs some help with only 92.5 yards per game last year. But the competition between Peyton Jones and Jaquez Moore should be able to put up some more yards. The receiving core is the bread and butter, and they look to upgrade with the return of Samir Haggins, who throughout his Duke career caught 109 passes to go along with 8 touchdowns. And he'll be joined by Keyshawn Brown, who collected 41 passes last year as a redshirt freshman. Diaz will have half of the defensive unit from last year back, and that will be a problem for the rest of the conference. Last year, they led the ACC in sacks with 43, forced fumbles in 19, and fumble recoveries with 14. Defensive ends Wesley Williams and Vincent Anthony Jr. return after combining for 73 tackles last year. Corner Chandler Rivers is known for making big plays when it matters the most, and he will be joined by safety Terry Moore, who led the team with 4 interceptions. Expectations for this team could not be higher, and they have every reason to put them up that high. What? You're expecting me to make an effort on this team? This segment is too good for me to take over. This one is best left to the master. As you know, Red 5478 does have his As the Doak Burns series. Kind of a knockoff to Trees Days of Our Steelers. But this one can be separated like Days of Our Steelers. So therefore, the Season 2 premiere of As the Doak Burns will be on Red 5478's channel, and the link will be in the description down below. See, the ACC's already dramatic enough for one person to handle. Especially one team. After shocking what was believed to be at the time an elite Florida State squad, Georgia Tech had to come back to the flaming walls of hell that was the rest of their schedule. It also didn't help that injuries to your quarterback and top 3 running backs happened along the way. Despite that, Brent Key was able to lead the Jackets to a bowl game with the potential for more this year. Now the offense will bring back its field general, running back, and leading receiver. Haynes King battled through injuries and barely had the ability to throw the ball at times, so he used his running game to his advantage. Running back Jamal Haynes also battled through injuries, and he fell just short of 1,000 yards last year. The leading receiver, Malik Rutherford, returns after recording 62 catches, and he'll be joined by not one, but 2 FIU transfers in Eric Rivers and Dean Patterson, who combined for 112 catches for nearly 2,000 yards and 19 touchdowns. Now the defense needed a jolt, and the Jackets brought in former Texas safety coach Blake Gilden to oversee the unit. Tech's pass rush performed consistently but could never register any sacks. To fix it, they brought in FCS All-American defensive end Braden Manley from Mercer. The linebacker core will get some help with another transfer in Melvin Jordan IV from Oregon State. Now, as you may have guessed, Gilden's expertise revolves around the secondary, and he will be able to work with multiple veterans who started multiple games, with 2 standout players being safety Omar Daniels and corner Amari Harvey. Everyone in the ACC better be careful, because if this team could stay healthy, your season might be ruined, or you might just have to ruin theirs. When Brian Brom took over the Cardinals in 2023, Louisville was able to collect 10 wins en route to a trip to Charlotte for the ACC Championship. With those results, people would say what happened last year was a bit of a letdown. 9 wins with all of those one-score losses shows that this team can contend, but they need to play a full 60 minutes. And I can't say that enough on this channel. There is one thing you can count on, and that is a Jeff Brom team being able to throw the football. And they brought in a familiar face in Miller Moss from USC. When I say familiar, I mean familiar foe. In Brom's first season, Louisville met USC in the Holiday Bowl, and the Trojans came out on top with 372 yards and 6 touchdowns from Moss. And so, he looks to bring that performance to this team. At running back, they are bringing back a familiar 1-2 punch in Isaac Brown and Duke Watson, who combined for over 1,700 yards last year. The most reliable receiver coming back will be Chris Bell, who had 43 catches for 737 yards and 4 touchdowns. The last 2 years, the defense has shown that they could be a brick wall, especially on the front line, with 70 sacks recorded and 38 turnovers forced. However, that unit has since been hit by graduation and the portal. Now, they will still get contributors like defensive tackle Ring Konga, who had 20 tackles and 2.5 sacks. The top 2 tacklers on the team, TJ Quinn with 82 tackles and Stanquan Clark with 76, will be brought back to the linebacker unit. Now, the secondary needed some help, but they were able to find some in the portal with Joe Jefferson from Western Michigan. Louisville does have the team that can take them far, and possibly into mid-January. The question is, can they play a full 60 minutes? If they can, watch out. Mario Cristobal, my crystal ball is telling me that there are restless fans in Coral Gables, and there might be a pink slip in your future. The last 3 years have been signs of early success, only for the Canes to punch their fans right where it counts enough times to make the Seattle Mariners jealous. Do you have any idea how hard that is to do? A prime example was last year, where Miami was ranked as high as 4th in the country, only to lose to notable season killer Georgia Tech, and lose their ticket to Charlotte by slipping on some damn oranges in Syracuse. The good news is, Miami should still be as deadly. The offense is dealing with the loss of Cam Ward to the first overall pick, but you brought in this guy from Georgia by the name of Carson Beck. If he can stay healthy and be able to recover from that elbow injury, Miami will be back in no time. Now that Cristobal has a quarterback, he needs weapons for said quarterback. Running back Mark Fletcher has been used in the rushing and passing games in his 4 starts last year. In fact, he leads all returnees with receptions with 10 while being in the running back position. In second is tight end Elijah Lofton with 9, and he needs help in the receiving corps, and he'll get just that with wide receiver Ray Joseph showing more improvement during spring. And the defense will still have its wall up front with the returns of Hakeem Messidor and Ruben Bain Jr. with a combined 9 sacks last season. Your leading tackler is back with linebacker Wesley Bisonthi, collecting 59 stops last year. And in the secondary, corner O.J. Frederick earned high praise as a true freshman with 30 tackles, a pick, and 7 broken passes. Like I always say, Canes, roller coasters are great for amusement parks, not football. Unless your name is Kennywood. The Tar Heels have been getting a lot of attention, but I would say for all the wrong reasons. They fired Mack Brown after leading them to 6 consecutive bowl games, but I guess giving up 70 points to a president that's been dead for nearly 200 years would give anyone the boot. Now they brought in Bill Belichick, the hoodie. One of the most decorated coaches in NFL history has decided to give college football a try. And it's already turning into the ACC's next soap opera, with his girlfriend getting more attention than the players. And I highly doubt you want to be the next Ask the Doak Burns, so let's keep going. Last year, the offense had 3 different starting cornerbacks, so finding the next one is very crucial. But Belichick was able to find one in South Alabama by the name of Gio Lopez. The running game took a hit after Omarion Hampton became a Charger in the first round of the NFL draft. So look for guys like sophomore Davion Goss and Michigan transfer Benjamin Hall to try to fill the void. The receiving corps will look to have 2 standouts in Jordan Shipp and then Kobe Pacesower, who looks to recover from 3 foot surgeries. To oversee the defense, Bill brought in his son Steve Belichick, and he already is having a difficult time keeping everything in sync. And it doesn't help that Bo Atkinson left for Ohio State and Amir Campbell entering the portal as well. The linebacker corps will benefit from a few transfers, like Kamori House from Washington. And the secondary will also get safety Will Hardy back after he appeared in all 13 games and recorded 34 tackles. It's going to take a lot of effort to get the spotlight off the hoodie. Good luck. You're going to need it. The Wolfpack are coming off their first losing season in 5 years, but Dave Doeren has managed to follow up 2 other losing campaigns with 8-win seasons in his 12 years as head coach in Raleigh. But now there's more wrinkles to iron out. The offense has been horrifically inconsistent last season, so Doeren showed Robert Aiden the door. So now, Kurt Roper has moved up to the rank of offensive coordinator, and the offense will look to see C.J. Bailey play a full season at quarterback after he started 9 games as a true freshman last year. And he will have tight end Justin Jolly to throw to after Jolly reached 661 yards in 43 catches. Running back Hollywood Smothers will return after leading NC State with 571 yards rushing and 6 touchdowns. But the offense won't be the only unit with a new leader in the press box. Tony Gibson is now the head coach of Marshall, as I mentioned in the Sun Belt preview. Now the new leader is DJ Elliott from Baylor. Out of the 6 top tacklers, only one of them returned with Sean Brown, who had 96 stops last year. And he is going to get help from the likes of Temple transfer Trey Thomas, and a full season from Caden Forum will also help. The defensive line will have returning starters Brandon Cleveland and Trevally Price back, but they could use some help. And finally, the secondary will get more help in the form of Georgia State transfer J.J. Johnson. The Wolfpack will try to perform a bounce-back campaign, and it starts with getting revenge on East Carolina following that Military Bowl loss. Let's see if the Wolfpack can turn some heads this year. Finally, a football team that won't let the Steel City down. 7-0 and are in the driver's seat for another trip to What in the fuck? You lost 6 straight to end the year? Including death by action against Toledo? What? If there is one thing we've learned from Your Name Tree, it's don't rank Pitt. They will let you down every time. How Pat Narduzzi wasn't shown the door after that implosion will be another question for future historians to figure out. But now it's time for redemption. This is one of the most experienced rosters in FBS, so hopefully these guys have learned their lessons. The main problem has not been scoring points, as Cade Bell, in his first season of running the offense, saw them improve from 116th to 31st in scoring. Dual threat quarterback Eli Holstein had himself a breakout freshman year, finishing with 2,228 yards passing, 328 rushing, high logical Canadian, and 20 touchdowns. And as an all-purpose player 1 season ago, Desmond Reed earned all ACC honors while running for 966 yards and collecting 579 receiving yards. Now there will be 3 key targets coming back at wide receiver who combined for over 1,200 yards and 12 touchdowns last year, with Kenny Johnson, Raphael Poppy Williams Jr., and Sincere Lee. To say the defense needed some rebuilding is putting it very lightly. 6 losses, and in 4 of them, they gave up 48, 37, 34, and 48 points. Good God. The defensive line will provide some experience with Jimmy Scott and all-ACC Nick James, and they will be joined by Utah State transfer Blaine Spires. The linebacker core will set the tone as Kyle Lewis returns after recording 101 tackles last year, and the secondary took the most damage, so Rashad Battle and Javon McIntyre will try to right the ship and avoid another collapse. Pitt needs to play 12 games instead of 7. If they do so, maybe all the memes will die. The fine folks of Dallas have waited a long time since the 80s to say this. SMU is back. They were the ultimate Cinderella in the regular season, going 11-1, going 8-0 in the ACC, nearly coming back from a 17-point lead against Clemson in the ACC championship, and then, to the delight of everyone except for those in Tuscaloosa and Yankees fans, it was just enough to sneak their way into the college football playoff over Alabama. The Mustangs look to go even further than the first round last year, and Rhett Lashley has the team in that position. The offense will get its field general back in Kevin Jennings full-time after he finished with 3,245 yards and 23 touchdowns. And if the offense wants to reach higher than 8th in FBS in scoring, they have the weapons to do it, with wide receivers Jordan Hudson, who had 39 catches for 422 yards, and Romello Brinson, who had 5 catches in the ACC Championship, as well as tight end R.J. Maryland with 24 catches for 359 yards and 4 touchdowns. The late spring departure of running back L.J. Johnson Jr. provides a bit of a problem, so redshirt freshman Derek McFall will look to fill the gap. The defense held opponents to 326 yards a game last year, near the top 25, and they gained a few transfers in the offseason in all areas, not to mention the return of some notable players. The secondary will see the return of safety Isaiah Nwokobia, who collected 100 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, and 3 interceptions. And one of the transfers mentioned comes from Syracuse in the form of corner Marcellus Barnes, and he looks to aid Nwokobia in an already stellar secondary. Another transfer will help the defensive line with Texas State transfer Terry Webb playing at defensive tackle. SMU were the darlings last year. Now they look to be the kings of college football and finish the story. Oh boy, we're about to run into a wall of trees? 3-9, 3-9, 3-9, 3-9. I know the fine folks of Stanford are tired of seeing those numbers because that's all they keep saying every year. The fans were getting restless, and it cost Troy Taylor his job. Or was it something else we won't mention? Now it's time to put that aside, and the general manager and 2-time Heisman finalist Andrew Luck has brought in his former NFL coach and Frank Reich to lead his first college football program. The offense will have a new leader in the press box, as Nate Byam, the former tight ends coach, has been promoted to offensive coordinator. Also new is the field general, Elijah Brown, as he looks to run the show after arriving last year as a 4-star recruit. The Cardinal have not had a consistent running game in years, and Micah Ford will get the opportunity to handle the workload. Now there are plenty of weapons for Brown to choose from, like wide receiver transfers C.J. Williams from Wisconsin and Jordan Nove from Colorado, as well as veteran tight end Sam Roush. Now the defense has to improve from giving up 33.7 points a game last season. Only 4 schools, Mississippi State, Texas Tech, Oklahoma State, and Purdue, were worse in that department. Yeah, even Kent State did better than you guys in that department. That might want to fire you up, wouldn't it? The defensive line will have experience coming back with 5th-year member Anthony Franklin. The linebacker core will be more consistent, with returning Tavara Tafidi, and then there is former FCS All-American Josiah Galvin, who shows potential for a breakout season. In a defense that forced 17 turnovers last year, 3 of them were Colin Wright interceptions as he returns to aid the secondary. Tired of going 3-9 yet? I think that this would be the year to do something about it. Fran Brown brought in a lot of promise this year after a 10-win season last year, including ending Miami's hopes and dreams. However, with so many key contributors gone, this might be yet another middle-of-the-pack season for the Orange, especially if you decide to put yourselves in one of the hardest schedules in the country. At quarterback, you had to find a way to replace Kyle McCord, who led the nation in passing last year. They brought in 2 transfers that will be competing for the starting job, with Steve Angeli from Notre Dame and Ricky Collins from LSU. At running back, they lost to Quinn Allen in the 7th round of the draft. However, they have 2 good reserves in Will Nixon and Yasin Willis, and they will both return. The wide receiver core took a hit with Trevor Penna transferring to Penn State, but they still have the potential of a full year with Justice Ross Simmons and a transfer from Texas and Washington in Jonte Cook II. The defense struggled to stop the run last year, so they brought in a transfer from Boston College by the name of George Rooks to lessen the damage. The linebacker core will have a leader in a returning Derek McDonald, and the secondary will be must-watch as known quantities in safety Deuce Chestnut and corner Devin Grant return. The Orange will also have a dual threat at cornerback and at wide receiver with Dimitri Samuel Jr., so be on the lookout for number 1. You probably won't reach the highs of 10-3 like you did last year, but this should still be a fun team to watch. For the Cavaliers, they had 3 chances in the last 3 weeks to shock the college football world in order to make a bowl game last season. Like in baseball, 3 strikes and you're out. Good news is, you don't have to deal with Clemson, Miami, or SMU this year, so your schedule is pretty easy. More good news is that Tony Elliott was able to add 10 players from the portal following spring workouts. One of those transfers will be the new field general for the offense with former North Texas quarterback Chandler Morris. You're going to need people like him if you're going to score more than 22.7 points per game. At running back, Xavier Brown will return after running for 488 yards last year, and he will be joined by a group of transfers led by Jamari Taylor, who is coming off of a 1,882-yard season for North Carolina Central. The receiving corps took a hit with the departure of Malachi Fields to Notre Dame. However, they did grab a couple of experienced transfers with Jamal Enright from Purdue and Cam Ross from James Madison. The defense is half complete, as while the front is okay, the secondary needs to answer a whole lot of questions. Up front, you will see the return of linebackers Cam Robinson and James Jackson, as well as tackles Jameer Carter and Anthony Britton. To solidify the middle and on the edge, transfers like Fisher K-Mac from UNLV. The secondary is filled with transfers, with 2 notable ones being safeties Devin Neal from Louisville and corner Jordan Robinson from Cincinnati. Virginia has a long way to go, but a bowl might be coming to Charlottesville this year. 1 year ago, the expectations were sky high, as Enter Sandman was blasting so loud in Blacksburg, you could also hear it in Scotland. And how did you meet those expectations? By going 6-7. Bravo. This is the 4th season now for Brent Pry, and let's just say the fans are getting restless. And if he does not have a breakout year this year, the sea of orange will turn into a sea of pink. To lead the offense, they pass the torch over to Philip Montgomery, the former Tulsa head coach, and he has experience as offensive coordinator for Houston, Baylor, and Auburn. Montgomery's expertise has been in developing quarterbacks, and he will have a dual threat one in Kyron Drones, who was limited by lower leg injuries late in the last season. At running back, they will be relying on Bowling Green transfer Terrion Stewart to take over the position. The receiving corps suffered transfer losses, but veteran Aiden Green will return as plenty of transfers and young prospects will bloom. As for the defense, they have had 3 defensive coordinators in 6 years. So Sam Sifkes will have to fix the Hokies defense quickly, but they did lose 12 players that either started or played a hefty number of snaps last year, so that will make it a Herculean task. The front will see the return of tackle Kamari Copeland after missing most of the season due to injury, and a pair of athletic linebackers will return with Jaden Keller and Caleb Woodson. The secondary will be receiving some transfers such as Tyson Flowers from Rice, Sherrod Koval from Clemson, and Isaiah Brown Murray from East Carolina. Virginia Tech, hopefully last year served as a reminder why you don't get your hopes up. We'll see if you learned anything. We have a changing of the guard in Winston-Salem as Dave Clawson steps away from the program, and honestly, it was time to move on. Despite 7 bowl games in 11 seasons, the Demon Deacons have only had 2 winning records in conference play in the last 17. Now it's time for the next leader in Jake Dickert to bring Wake Forest to relevance. The offense will have a journeyman at quarterback as Robbie Ashford comes in after spending 2 seasons at Oregon, then Auburn, then South Carolina, and now the journey ends here in Winston-Salem. The cornerstone is at the running back position, as Demon Claiborne, who not only got it done on the ground with 1,049 yards rushing, but he also took over the air with 23 receptions while collecting overall 13 touchdowns. The receiving corps only have one veteran coming back, with Micah Mays Jr., who had 16 catches as a freshman last year. So they have to bring in depth via the portal, like Carlos Hernandez arriving from Washington State, and then Sterling Burkholder coming in from Cincinnati. The defense has more holes than Swiss cheese, but if there's one thing that Dickert and new defensive coordinator Scotty Hazelton know how to do, it's to build a defense. The secondary will get a valuable piece back in safety Nick Anderson, who led the ACC in tackles with 122. The front will see returning starters B.J. Williams and Zach Lahavichin, and there will be a few transfers that will help them out, with one of them being Jaden Loving from Western Kentucky. The linebacker corps will be led by another valuable veteran in Dylan Hazen. Wake Forest has a long way to go until they get into the bowl picture. Who knows? Maybe they can shock the world. Okay, now that we got that out of the way, it's time to... Gold Dome! Gold Dome! Gold Dome! Gold Dome! Alright, now that I'm blind, let's go ahead and go over Notre Dame. God, is that what the BCS people had to deal with in 2012? Okay, Marcus Freeman. You were one win short from completing the 3 or 4 year prophecy that Red keeps mentioning. But something tells me you're going to be here for a long time. After a 31-year wait, the Irish finally won a major bowl game by winning the Sugar Bowl. They followed it up by winning the Orange Bowl, en route to a national championship appearance. This year, something feels different. It feels like your winning ways will be staying put from one contending season, rather than having you rebuild the following year. You have plenty of talent on offense to get you past that hurdle. But, unfortunately, you have to replace Riley Leonard at quarterback, but CJ Carr should be able to fill the void. You also get a Heisman candidate back in Jeremiah Love as he returns to the running back position after running for 1,125 yards and 17 touchdowns last year. Carr will also have plenty of weapons at wide receiver, including a returning standout in Jaden Greathouse and Virginia transfer Malachi Fields. And Carr will also be supplied with an offensive line ready to protect him, with guard Charles Chagusa and tackle Emil Wagner leading the way. Now it's time to go over the defense, and they are under a new leader in the press box. And a very familiar face, well, at least for me. Chris Ash has experience with national championship winning defenses like in 2014 with Ohio State. However, he has big shoes to fill as Al Golden is now the Cincinnati Bengals defensive coordinator. While some leadership is gone, some veterans and talents remain. Defensive ends Bobakar Traore and Jordan Bethello will look to recover from season-ending knee injuries. The linebacker corps will be loaded and led by Drake Brown and sophomore Kingston Fumeo Asa. And the secondary will have safety Adon Schuler back as he had an outstanding season as a redshirt freshman, and corner Leonard Moore returns after an impressive freshman campaign. Now, all the other teams better watch out should Notre Dame survive the first 5 weeks, because this team can still make some noise. And the fans will never cease to shut up about it. Okay, that's much better. Now let's do some predictions. And this one is going to be very, very difficult because you have 4 teams that can make noise, like Clemson, Miami, SMU, even Louisville can bounce back. But looking at all the teams, I think this year it's going to be a rematch of last year's ACC championship with Clemson and SMU. But this time, SMU is getting vengeance and surprising Clemson on their way to, I think, what might propel SMU to a first-round bye for both them and Clemson. The ACC needs a sport to be powerful in. Might as well take the SEC's power. And with that, my work here is done when it comes to the 2025 College Football Mass Preview. Looking at the schedule, Illogical Canadian already finished his campaign with the SEC. Of course, you're watching the ACC right now. Tomorrow will be the 9th and final video of the series as Red previews the Big Ten, including the reigning, defending, undisputed national champions and the world-famous Ohio State Buckeyes. Thank you guys so much for watching throughout this whole campaign. I look forward to seeing you guys all season, as we might do some college football streams on this channel. We already did the college football playoff. I might explore some more regular season stuff, as well as making predictions. So stay tuned for that. Be sure to check out Red5478 and Illogical Canadian on YouTube. I'll leave a link to both of their channels in the description down below. And if you've seen my community posts, I did make a playlist of all 9 of our videos like I did for last year during our mass preview. So go check those playlists out. And be sure to like, comment, share both of their channels with your friends, and subscribe to both Red5478 and Illogical Canadian. And while you're at it, feel free to like this video, leave a nice comment, share this video with your friends, and subscribe to this channel as well, the RedRubberDuckGuin All Sports Network, as football season is fast approaching, and I cannot wait. Again, thank you guys for your support throughout this whole preview. And now, it's time for chaos to ensue. Thank you guys again for watching. Again, like and subscribe. Till we meet again, I will see you guys in the next video. Take care, you guys.